Hello friends, welcome back to our channel, Mystery Recaps. Today, I will show you the 2011 action, adventure fantasy film Priest. There are spoilers ahead. Watch out and be cautious. After gaining access to the Solar Mirror Hive, the Priest can be seen approaching it. Black Hat observes that something is amiss, but Priest is adamant that they must locate the Queen, so they proceed. They hear some sounds up front and prepare their weapons before realizing it's a trap. As their people are dragged underground, some are captured while others make their way to the surface. When they reach the final tunnel, Priest is unable to assist Black in evading capture. The world inhabited by priests has always contained vampires. Humans and vampires have waged a bloody war for eons, destroying each other and threatening the world with extinction. Under the protection of the church, the humans withdrew into walled cities. Then they developed priests as the ultimate weapon against vampires. They were formidable warriors trained in the art of vampire combat who annihilated the vampire threat on their own. The remaining vampires were placed on reservations, and consequently, the church disbanded its priesthood. Few of them are still integrated into a society that no longer requires their services. Together with the vampires fading into obscurity, Owen bores into the ground years later to measure the radiation levels. According to his findings, he informs his wife, Shannon, that they may be able to begin planning. Lucy immediately makes a sly remark about the food she can smell upon her return home. When she states that she has been in town, he asks her where she has been. He becomes enraged because she disobeyed his command. She asserts that she is old enough, but he informs her that this rule does not apply where they reside. There, sacrifices must be made. Lucy becomes enraged because she feels like a prisoner in their outpost. Shannon interrupts their argument and orders them to say grace, bringing them both to their senses. When she investigates the source of the tremors, Lucy discovers a pack of vampires approaching her home. He instructs the women to descend. Shannon unlocks their hiding place and brings Lucy inside, instructing her not to scream no matter what she hears. She remains in the residence to assist Owen. Lucy hears gunfire and her parents screaming as they are torn apart by vampires. The hatch opens and a person enters. One can see the terrifying Lucy Cathedral City skyline. It is still under the protection of the church. Its denizens are constantly under the eye of the ruling clergy, as priests can be seen walking among the people. The church bells toll and everyone stops to pay homage, with a disembodied voice saying that to go against the church is to go against God. Priest goes to a confessional and enters the automated booth. He begs to be forgiven for his sins, and his voice is recognized by the machine and automated Monsignor, all as appears on screen. And the priest immediately moves to his confession. He had dreams about the war with the vampires and the time when he couldn't save one of his men. The priest has begun to question and doubt his faith. The automated Monsignor replies that the devil has many shapes and that one can combat him by personal sacrifice. And Labor then gives him his prayers of contrition. Later, the priest is going back to his home and is in an elevator with a boy and his mom. The boy asks about his tattoo, but his mom tells him that he mustn't talk to priests just as he is about to enter his apartment. He knocks over a man that has been following him. He tells him that he is the sheriff where his brother Owen lives and that he's been hurt. Lucy, taken by the vampires and Shannon killed the man, follows the priest inside and tells him that Lucy has talked about him as a war hero, the best at killing vampires. He says that he will go after her and he could use him by his side. The priest can't just accept. He goes to see the ruling clergy to ask them for the reinstatement of his authority as a priest. Monsignor Rell was informed by Monsignor Chamberlain of his troubles. The priest tells them that his family was attacked by vampires. The priest continues to question him, and he is reminded by the Monsignor that questioning the authority of the clergy is absolutely forbidden. If he disobeys them, he would be stripped from the order and excommunicated. Meanwhile, in a fast-moving train, Lucy is kept in a cage by the vampires. She's taunted by one of them until Black Hat arrives. Chamberlain says that the war has long been won, and the priest disagrees. He tells the priest not to commit sacrilege just to hunt down a small band of scavengers. The priest says that he is too, and police storm the bar that they are in. Chamberlain says that he needs to think of the greater good and not stir up something that might cause more damage. The priest is disappointed. Even though Chamberlain wants to help him not make a mistake, he is ready to break his vow and takes down the officers one by one in a matter of seconds. Later, he is seen preparing himself and his weapons to go after the girl. He uncovers his vessel and rides out of Cathedral City. The priest leaves the final vestiges of the human world and enters the desolate and cruel landscape of the wasteland with incredible speed. The citizens protest and assert that they do not require the weapons. However, Hicks informs them that there are no longer any vampires. Later, he and the priest converse while awaiting the doctor's permission to see on. The priest enters and sits beside him. Oh, and asks why he never returned. He responds that he can no longer do so. Owen laments that he was unable to save Shannon because he lacked his gift. The priest consoles him by stating that he gave her a life he was unable to live. He was never forgotten by her. Owen begged him to guarantee that he will locate Lucy and kill every vampire. Later, the sheriff informs the priest that the clergy are searching for him and that they do not permit Lucy's rescue. A squadron of priests has been summoned to the Monsignor in Cathedral City. Their directive is to bring in a priest, whether dead or alive. Priests dislike this order, but they continue to ride. A priest attends the funeral of his brother, who has been buried next to Shannon. Hicks joins him at Owen's outpost and inquires about his discovery. The priest has discovered footprints that do not belong to vampires or their familiars. They will begin their search in the direction from which those objects originated. They travel to the nearest vampire reservation by horseback. According to the sheriff, they are a fallen tribe. They will not have much time as the sun is setting. Once inside, they discover that there are no guards, and the area is teeming with illegal familiars. The priest enters a cell and interrogates the familiar, threatening to open his master's coffin if he does not disclose Lucy's location. Suddenly, a group of combat-ready familiars appears. They attack the sheriff, who then flees outside to be attacked by another familiar. The priest appears at the last moment and dispatches the familiars. Except one, he questions him, but he defends the vampires and portrays the priest as a monster. The sun begins to set, and he informs him that he is too late because their time is at night. As soon as the sun sets, the vampires emerge from their coffins and immediately encircle the priest and the sheriff. The priest pulls out a Bible and begins reading, but immediately pulls weapons from between the pages and uses them to kill two of the vampires. They engage in combat and perish within the boundaries of the reservation. Hicks waits with his gun drawn, but it is the priest who escapes unharmed. They discuss what actions they should take. And according to the priest, the Soul Mara hive is in the west. Hicks believed that all of the hives had been eliminated, but he insists that they should still check. And perhaps, if they find the missing vampires on the reservation, Lucy will be located as well. Then, he instructs Hicks on how to kill vampires, since they do not move like humans. In order to kill one, he must anticipate their movements in the interim. The town salesman pays Black Hat a visit to provide him with information. He requests payment, but Black Hat threatens to drink his blood, so he provides the information anyway. The salesman informs him that the priest arrived in town with the sheriff after they abducted Lucy. Black Hat congratulates him, but simultaneously drinks his blood and transforms him into a familiar. The sheriff states that he will not permit him to do so. They eventually arrive at the hive and scale its walls. As soon as they enter, the priest is flooded with memories of his time there. During the war, he ignites the hive and instructs the sheriff to shoot anything that emerges that is not himself. The priest descends through the shaft. Hicks discovers a toy buried in the dirt and investigates the level of the hive before a creature materializes behind him. In the interim, Priest investigates the hive's tunnels. He observes a person running past him and pursues them. When he sees a light at the end of the tunnel, a priestess attacks him. Priest inquires as to her purpose, to which she responds that she was sent by the clergy. They collaborate to defeat the creature, and the priest delivers the finishing blow. Suddenly, the creature awakens, and Hicks kills it with a gunshot. The priest converses later while Hicks guards the entrance. Priestess inquires as to why there would be a guardian in an abandoned hive. Then she informs him that if Lucy is infected, the sheriff will attempt to prevent him from killing her. They enter only to discover a massive hive constructed for a new army. As they continue their investigation, the only problem is that nobody is present. Priestess informs Hicks that the priest was taken by the clergy much later and that his sacrifice was greater than that of the majority of them. He approaches them and informs them that the air is changing, and they discover a massive exit leading to Jericho, where the other priests were headed. They split up in order to search the buildings. Priestess discovers dynamite, while Priest enters an empty home. Hicks and the priestess meet, and he informs her that no one is left. According to her, there were too many mouths to feed. They discover Priest praying in the middle of the city before the bodies of the other priests. He is joined by her on the ground. "What kind of vampire could have killed 3 of them?" asks Hicks. Priest responds that they have never seen it before. Then he understands how the vampires could have fled the city before dawn. They proceed to the train station, where Hicks informs them that the rail ascends to the cities and that Jericho is the final stop in the desert. Black Hat adds that she and the priest will assist him. Back in Jericho, Hicks asks Priest how he can kill his own flesh and blood, Lucy, if she is infected. She informs him that becoming a familiar means she is no longer anyone's flesh and blood. Before leaving town, they set fire to the bodies of the remaining 3 priests. Priestess asserts that Lucy, who was an infant when the clergy abducted him, is his daughter. He gave her to Owen, and this was his offering. Priest informs him that he will be unable to save her on his own if he kills him. However, they can only accomplish this together. As they approach the train, Priest instructs Priestess to derail the train regardless of whether or not they are still on it. Priest inquires about his daughter, to which he responds that she is awaiting his decision. Black Hat deflects his attack and informs him that he is now stronger than him, so he cannot win. As the riders approach, Priestess places explosives on the tracks and causes damage to them. She prepares for combat and engages them immediately. He knocks Priest to the ground and believes he has pushed him beneath the train tracks, but Priest simultaneously grabs onto the rein. Hicks navigates through the train and avoids an awakening vampire hive. Then he encounters Lucy being abducted by a familiar. He desires to detonate the door. Immediately after the priest punches his way into the train, the vampires enter the train car. Then she pursues the vampire, who informs her that the priest is her biological father. Again engaged in combat, he stabs the priest against a wall. Black Hat removes Lucy from the train and abandons Priest to burn to death. Priestess mounts the explosives on her bicycle and rides towards the train at the same time. Priest awakens and climbs down from the wall. Lucy is about to be turned when Black Hat suddenly appears and strikes him. She falls, but he quickly catches her. They are hanging from the side of the train, and a man in a black hat prepares to push them off. When they see Priest approaching, she jumps off the bike just before it collides with the train, while Priest holds Lucy. The train is annihilated, along with all vampires aboard. Hicks observes the explosion and dashes in its direction. He finds Priest and Lucy alive upon his arrival. The woman leaps into his arms. He gallops off into the sunset. Be sure to subscribe and enable notifications so you can view similar videos. Thank you for viewing.